Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. Uh, this is a really fascinating conversation that we are going to be having with Jason Roberts, the curator at the African American Museum in Baton Rouge. And of course, you recognize probably the guy down there, Tim Nesmith, uh, superintendent of ships at the USS Kidd. And this is something, and I'm Shane from the Buffalo Naval Park. So thank you for checking in. And right off the bat, we have some dogs barking, right? Yes. Tim, is that one of your dogs there?
That is Zola and Sweet Pea, and they're probably about to be sprayed with a little spray bottle because they're making noise. So
Very good. That's all right.
that's how we do discipline in Castle being Nesmith.
I understand. So let's just roll right into it. Jason, welcome today to this live session talking about the segregated spaces on board a Fletcher class destroyer in World War II. Why don't you give us a little background of how you've interfaced with this project, you and your family, and a little bit about the museum?
Oh, certainly. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here. Um, as you mentioned, I am the curator of the Baton African American Museum that was founded by my mother,
Mm,
Sadie Roberts Joseph, back in '93 was the initial opening of the museum. And what she did was to collect a lot of history and present it to the local area. So we got a phone call from Tim, who we actually met a long time ago at a museum function, and he called us up and asked if we would be a part of this, and we gratefully agreed to join in. It was a honor, really, to be included in this. So we're
oh, that's
excited about it.
oh, that's great. That's great. And hello, Tim. How are you today?
I am kind of running. I got up this morning, headed to Homa to the shipyard. Got done at the shipyard, did a little bit of filming, did a little bit of checking on projects. And I apologize to the viewers. I'm not ignoring y'all by not looking at the screen. I'm just trying to overcome some technical difficulties. Um, but uh, but yeah, did a little bit of checking on some stuff, and then hit the road and came back and took a shower because it's sweaty in Homa, and then jumped on the computer. So
Yeah, great.
it's a busy day.
It's a busy day, no doubt. Of course, we have a question. How long will the kid be in dry dock?
It's estimated right now we'll get out sometime in either December or January. I'm betting probably closer to January. Um, and it all depends on projects and fundraising. And of course, weather. You know, if we have any more hurricanes come through, Hurricane Francine didn't do anything physically to the ship. But what ended up happening was they because it was bearing down on Homa. Um, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make this thing
No.
work. Because it was bearing down on Homa, uh, they had to basically shut down operations, secure the yard, secure all the ships in the yard against weather, and then from there they had to get everybody home.
Mm-hmm.
So they lost all day Tuesday, the 10th of September. They lost all day Wednesday, the 11th, which is when the storm came ashore. And then part of the day on the 12th, excuse me, where they were basically getting people back to the yard to check, start cleaning up, and I think by Friday, they had stuff back underway again, and we're doing some work and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
they lost 3 days.
Wow, that's a
So
lot.
any
That's a lot of time.
Oh, that's a lot of time, especially when you're in a shipyard, because as Paul Ferrace at the COD reminds us constantly, every minute in the dock costs money. And every time you turn the pumps on, like he was in a land-based dock, not a floating dock like we're
Yeah.
in. And every time you turn the pumps on to pump the water out or to let the water in, it costs you money. So time is money with shipyards.
You got it. And Jason, I know we covered this briefly, but you didn't really have much effect with at the museum during the hurricane, right? Nothing major
No,
happened.
nothing major at all. We did find out that we had a small leak that we have to take care of, but
Oh,
yeah, the rainfall kind of lets you know those things, doesn't it?
yes, as we know on ships too, when it rains, sometimes it will rain inside the vessel, and
Mhm.
we're like, oh, we didn't see that little weep hole or something,
Right,
right?
right.
Right.
Right. So what we are going to be doing today is talking about some of the great work that Tim has been coordinating with Jason and his family at the African American Museum, and how work is going on a particular space on the USS Kidd. Since they are going, since their interpretive year is roughly August of 1945, Tim, is it?
Correct.
Okay.
August VJ Day.
Oh, you actually pick VJ Day. All right,
VJ
very
Day.
good. The military was still segregated at that time, and there was a space that has been converted over time. And with that as their interpretive year, they are going to be bringing back the steward mate space, which was a segregated space. And when Tim came up to visit Buffalo and the Sullivans, we went down to the space comparable on our ship up here, and he began talking about what it will look like and what the vision is, and I hope to have some pictures. That's what Tim is working on now. We're going to get some pictures sent to me, and then we'll be able to share some of this of the work. So,
I got to remember where I stored them.
Oh gosh, I understand. I understand.
Yeah, I apologize.
No, that's all right.
And not to say that I didn't enjoy or look forward to visiting my good friend Shane last September, but the sole point for my extension of my trip to historic naval ships in Albany was to go to Fall River and find some equipment on Battleship Massachusetts that we are looking to replicate, a prophylactic station. So we can talk about venereal disease in World War II, yay! And to go to Boston to see our friend Buzz on the Cass and Young. And then to go see Shane and Paul and Stephen up in Buffalo, and to see the Sullivans, and how Cass and Young and Sullivan's rooms are put together in that location, and then compare to what we have and what the blueprints have, and basically like an archaeological dig. You can tell them I was crawling back behind some of your fire control equipment and some of your amplifiers down on the mess deck level, trying to look for old bunk hooks that the racks would fit into, weld marks, all of that. I was Indiana Jonesing hard, just to try to find stuff to help guide us. And Shane, I will tell you that the shipyard has told me that those photos that I took of both of y'all's spaces are 100% invaluable. So thank you for giving me access to all that. In fact, today I was down there, and I was looking at what they're doing on the lower level where the food service line starts.
Yes.
And I was able to see they've moved the ladder now from one side to the other, and we'll talk about that. And they've started construction of the wall that wasn't there before in Kidd's configuration. And I mean, it's all coming together. It's about that far away from being finished. It's great.
Awesome.
we're
Awesome.
excited.
Wow.
So why yeah, so hello. Tim is getting older and needs thicker glasses. Oh boy. That wasn't me. That was
Actually, I had bifocals, and the bifocals set off my vertigo, so that's why I'm here. I went back to my old glasses.
gotcha.
And
Okay.
oh, I see, Richie. Let's not talk about age, sir.
Very nice. That's great. So
I know
yes,
Richie, so
while Tim is searching around for photos. Oh, thank you. Lorenz Rogers. Thank you for your donation. That's nice. Let's see if I can show that. Oops, wrong one. Yeah, $5. Thanks for keeping us updated. It's always fascinating to learn new things about Kidd. So thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. All of your support is greatly appreciated. Just being here is always appreciated as well. So yes, so what we are trying to figure out here is Tim has some pictures. He wants to send them to me. It got lost in the shuffle, and we just weren't able to get to it before we went live. So he is doing that. Jason, do you? So what was this? What was the first contact? I know your dad served a little bit. You were saying in the Navy, and then mostly in the Army. Is that true?
Yes, dad was born in 1926, and at 15 years old, he joined the Navy, following behind his best friend, with a letter from his mother allowing him to join the service. We laughed about that a little earlier.
Yes. Yes.
His mom basically signed him over to the Navy, and he served for 4 years there. And upon his completion of duties there, he switched to the military, the Army, and
Yes.
he did Army for 26 years, I believe.
Oh my gosh. So he made this
wow.
his career. Like,
Yes, yes, he was a
okay.
career military man.
Wow. All right. So 4 and 20, yeah, 30 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. And so what was your experience? Hearing some of the stories or different places he may have been stationed or
Well, unfortunately, being a World War II vet, I guess kind of traumatized him to some degree. He didn't speak a lot about his service. The vast majority of what I learned about his service, I learned after his passing. Um, I know that he did. He worked. He worked in the mess hall. I remember that he told me that he worked in the mess hall on the ship. Um, Thereafter, he ended up doing combat duty. He ended up getting attached to General Waters, who he basically stayed with until his passing. And upon retirement from the military, he worked with the Waters family until his own passing. So he
Mhm.
was, even after the military service, he was still tied in with military people.
Yeah, that's if you make it a career, you build many relationships, I can imagine
Yes.
that are lifelong and deep because they've all experienced something that for those of us that enjoy those freedoms and haven't served, we don't have an idea of what they sacrificed or what they went through.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So, what was your first contact with the kid, um, and how was it presented? This project was presented.
Well, my very first contact with the kid was actually as a kid going as a child myself
Oh,
going up there. It being stationed right there on the docks by downtown Baton Rouge. My father didn't live that far away, so on Sundays or so we'd go walking down there, and he'd show me the ship, and there was always a sense of pride that he showed when we would talk about the ship. I know that wasn't the ship that he was on, but he had a emotional connection to that ship, and that was very palpable when we would go there.
hmm.
Um, Much later on, I worked for a middle school that stayed on the kid overnight a couple times, and that was a blast. The tour guides there did a great job with just teaching the kids all about what military life was like, and what in particular life was like on the kids. So the kids came away with a very good knowledge base of the functioning of the kid. And of course, as all of they love playing on the big guns and everything. So we have lots of pictures of those. And then when Tim reached out, he actually reached out to my sister for Tim. Was that the description of the space that you're renovating now? Was that what that was?
Yes. Roseanne Geip was our director from 2019 through 2022, and Roseanne challenged me during the pandemic to go through and rewrite the decades old descriptions that we have in the damage control brackets along the tour route. And so we didn't have one in that space, in that ladder well. And on one of my strip trips to Beaumont salvaging parts, what ended up happening was I found a box of those plates that you slide the checklist for the damage control checklist in each compartment in. And they weren't attached to anything. They were the more modern kind that have the adhesive on the back instead of screwing it into the bulkhead. And so I grabbed it, just like Rizzuto taught me. And Jason, you don't know it, but ship museums are pretty much where feeds. We just grab what we can that's not lashed down. He may not want to work with me anymore, or let me into his museum at the very least. But I had some of those to stash to the side, and so I said, "This isn't one that we have, but I would like to add it because we're not able to change this yet. But I would like people to know it more than just if they run into me or one of the other staff, what this space was about." And so she said, "Go for it." And so I kind of wrote up a script, 1-page description and everything. But it was a situation that I didn't feel comfortable just writing it up and slapping it up because, to be quite frank and quite transparent, I'm a white guy writing about a black experience, and that's not kosher to me. So I called Angela and asked Angela if she would, if I could send the text to her, let her look at it, see if the wording was right, phrasing was right, if I'm being insensitive in describing something. I wanted it to be historically accurate, but I also want to be sensitive to people's concerns, that it be portrayed accurately. And so she asked to come down to see the ship and to see what I was talking about. And we spent probably about 2 hours just standing in that little space until it got really hot. And we came up on deck in the breeze and started talking some more. And she gave me a couple of pointers and then said, "Green light, go for it. And just understand that sometimes you can't please all the people all the time." And I said, "I know that already. I work in tourism." So we put it up, and it's been up ever since. And then right about then, that's when the leaks started. And we knew that we were going to have to go to dry dock. And Tim Rizzuto had told me before he left in '97, he said, "If we ever take the ship to dry dock, this is a project that needs to happen because we can't do it here in Baton Rouge. It's shipyard work. Somebody will get hurt if we try to do it here." So I put that bug in the ear of, "Hey, if we're going to dry dock, let's raise money and let's get this project done."
So
And
Tim
that's where Jason
Rizzuto,
came in.
yeah. So Tim Rizzuto was talking about this back in '97.
Even before '97, probably. He just mentioned it to me in '97 on his way out the door.
Right.
Oh,
right.
by the way, I'm going up here for a year. Oh, by the way, blah, blah, blah. And I should have taken that as a sign that he wasn't coming back, and he never came back, but he ran away.
It's the whole, "Yeah, I'll be back after dinner," right? And then
I'll be back next year. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Okay. Very good.
So we've kept that alive, and Jason and Angela have offered to partner up with us to help tell one side of the story on the kid and the other side of the story at your museum.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Jason, tell us about that.
Oh, well, we're currently completing a renovation on our building as well, which is kind of ironic that we're both doing renovations on our spaces. But yeah, so once we get everything back in place, we are dedicating a section to talking about this particular subject. I mean, this is something that no one really talks about here in Baton Rouge, and we are looking forward to being able to tell this story and to kind of cross-pollinate with the kid send people over to see what it actually looked like. We'll tell the story and send them over there to have the actual visual and experience of being there.
What a great partnership opportunity you guys have here.
And these guys just got a new building, a new to them building. What is it? 2 blocks up the street from the Kidd.
Yes, about 2 blocks
So
up.
people coming to see us when we
Perfect.
get back and see this space can just turn around and go right up the street and see Jason and Angela.
Yeah, we are right there in St. Louis Street.
I'll remember that, St. Louis Street. How interesting. Yeah. What an interesting name. That must be fabulous for like school groups. And now 2 blocks, kids can walk, like go to one museum, take the walk down the hill or up the hill if there's a hill there, and be able to experience both your museum that you're curating and the ship where the stories actually happened, and to see the space and to experience how close how confined the space would have been. So when do you plan on debuting your side of the story, Jason?
We're trying to go for the end of the year. We're going for the Kwanzaa celebration at the end of the year. I think that we are pretty on track for actual opening on that date. We've had a couple setbacks. Obviously, with most construction, you have a setback here or there. But now I think we're ready. We're ready to go. So
great.
I'm excited.
Awesome. It's interesting. One of my colleagues, Stephen, our education director, made and produced a film called 2 Wars. And it's called 2 Wars, The Road to Integration. And the reason why it's called 2 Wars is because he highlights African American and women and minority groups fighting in World War II and then coming home and having to fight a war at home and have to fight racism and bigotry at home. So he calls it like the 2 wars. They're fighting for the country and then having to come back and having to justify your citizenship.
Exactly.
And maybe that's something that we can share. I don't want to speak for him, but maybe that's something that we could share with you as well. And if you maybe chose to incorporate it in some way or something like that, it's gotten a lot of accolades from around New York State and things like that. So that's something that we could talk about, moving forward.
Yeah, we do have a space that is available for displaying films and things like that. So we have like a small screening area, so that would work. We would definitely love to have that.
Well, good. I'll make sure we connect, over the next week or so.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, Tim, what's going on here?
Coming your way.
In my work email?
Yes.
Okay, so everyone, what we are hopeful to be receiving are photographs from Tim of the work of this space. So if I haven't received it yet, but
these are pictures of the ones that I sent you of Stewart's mates in World War II.
Yes.
In a similar space, but not on a destroyer. It's on a carrier.
Okay.
And pictures that I took of your space and Cass and Young's space. And I'm getting to you so we can talk about those while I'm pulling the work photos. The work photos are a little bit harder to find.
Okay, understood.
So
well, I still haven't.
This is going to be a work in progress, folks. Just bear with us. Jason, we're normally more organized than this. We just don't have Ken with us today.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, Ken.
And Connor. What? Forget about Ken. We don't have Connor with us.
We don't have Connor either. So those 2 guys usually
conversations, so that works.
They usually. And you did not get an email saying that it was too large to send, because I haven't received it yet. Let me see.
It's up to 26% right now, so it's calculating.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It's uploading.
So then what I will do is I will kind of share my screen. I'll have them on the screen, and then Tim can talk about them as I move them around. So that's good. Well, do you want to kind of give an introduction to the space, though, even while we're waiting for the photos? Like where it is located?
Right. So if you have toured Sullivan's or Cass and Young or Kidd, or if you're overseas and you've gone to Greece and toured Vilos, then when you come down from the main deck on the port side with the whaleboat above you, or the whaleboat davits are there if they don't have whaleboats, there is a double ladder that goes down 2 levels, first platform, second platform. And when you come off of that bottom ladder, you are in the food service area for the enlisted mess deck. Food service area is there. You walk forward and you land in the mess deck. Scullery is off to your right. So in World War II, are all of the ships, all of the Fletchers, that space on the first platform, you have the steward's berthing. And depending on the ship, and Shane, I don't know if you have, so I know you this whole thing started because you found Sullivan's blueprints for that space. Did you have 3 bunks high or 4 bunks high for
I think
your...
we have I think we have a total of 9 bunks, three
Okay.
sets of triples, and I think like 6 lockers. You know, like
Yeah.
they have the technical code for them is like 2A lockers and
Something like that.
B lockers, which would be either up and down, you know, up one locker here, one locker here, or a full length locker. And then there's the laundry as well, like the laundry locker, you know, to put your soiled clothes in. At least on our blueprints, that's what it says.
Right. So ours are the same, except for some reason, Kids shows 4 high. So we have 12 bunks in there, 4 sets of 3, which means it's even tighter than the regular listed bunks. Sigsbee, I think it's Sigsbee. Sigsbee's blueprints show 3 high, like yours do. So it's an interesting difference looking at it. But that space would have had 2 ladders, one right behind the other, stacked. So you come down the first ladder to that level, to that space, you come around behind that ladder and go down the next ladder to go down to the food service
line and the food service line.
Right. And that's what I found, and you'll see that in these pictures when Shane gets the upload, when it gets to him. That's what I found when I went to Boston and went to Buffalo. Sullivan's and Cass and Young still show that ladder arrangement. However, they got an adjustment just like Kidd did in the 50s during the Korean War. New fire control equipment came along. The military was desegregated in 1948, so by President Truman. So they didn't need that space anymore for crew. The steward's mates moved over into the enlisted berthing and the chief's berthing, just like the rest of the crew. So they turned that space in. They put a divider wall in with a door, and they put fire control equipment because they have more advanced fire control and they needed more space. And that's what all 3 of our ships reflected as of last year, having all that fire control, Cold War era fire control equipment in there. So the difference between Kidd and Sullivan's and Cass and Young at that point is our ladders were no longer stacked one behind the other. We had a dumbwaiter put in for the food to get the food down below decks a lot easier after 1953. And so they cut in from the main deck a shaft going straight through that space on the inboard wall all the way down to the food service line. And they took that first ladder that goes down to the first platform, they take you into the space, and they shifted it back as far as they could. And I mean, when you came down that ladder, if you're not careful, you're just slamming right into the wall of the dumbwaiter. And then you very carefully step to the side, and the lower ladder, instead of being behind it, it can't be there anymore because it'd be covered up. It shifted into the center of the room. And you go down that ladder, and that brings you at the bottom of it, right against the curve of the outer hull. And the dumbwaiter shaft is on your right. So anybody touring Kidd knows that setup. So what we're doing is going back. We've cut out all that divider wall. We've cut out all the dumbwaiter now. We've moved the ladders. The ladders are lined up now. They're about to put the upper ladder in place, and they are putting the lower wall back into place, like what you'll see in the pictures from Sullivan's and Cass and Young
Mhm.
right now.
And
So
it's our,
we're going back and pushing back to that era.
yeah. So I got them. They're downloaded. I'm just kind of, I'm just putting them onto my, thank you everyone for your patience as well. Again,
Yes,
I'm not as
thank you.
skilled as Ken at doing this.
Connor,
So-
Connor.
or Connor. Does Connor do this
Connor.
for us? Oh, I thought it was, no, Ken always does
No,
his thing.
Ken handles the photographs. I think Connor does the chat and making sure everybody's is streaming to the proper areas. I don't know. I don't get into their business. I just come in and heckle them.
Yeah. Very good.
And Jason, thank you for being patient for this too. I really
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
no
that's
problem.
great. That's great. So let's see. Yeah, you sent me 50 files here. So
That's how thorough I was with your show.
yes. Okay. No,
You
there's
can
I see
scroll through
Buzz.
them pretty fast.
Yeah, I'm doing such. And so I have a bunch. So yes, let's there we go. I'll show a few from the Kid and a few from Cass and Young and a few from the Sullivans here.
Most of Sullivan's, I think, is at the bottom of the ladders.
Yep.
And then up on the main deck, because I forgot to photograph the main deck bulkheads and everything when I was with Buzz. So it was a good thing that I was seeing you.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. If I want to present, share screen window. No. Okay. So it actually seems as though I have to open these photos. Oh man, open them all.
To your computer, man.
Okay, so let's see if now this will work. Share screen, window. Okay, let's try this. You guys seeing that?
Yes, there we
Yes.
Okay, so
Very good.
Tim, these are pictures from the Cass and Young and the Sullivans,
Yeah.
along with a few photos. Now when I open them all as a batch, there
Mm-hmm.
seems to be 9 photos open here. There might be a second batch that I could see.
Okay.
So let's just go to a full screen on this.
Okay.
And why don't you? So this seems to be the Cass and Young.
Yes. So if you're standing with the breakwater just to the left of photo, out of shot, the whale boats on Kidd would be directly above your head. Cass and Young does not have any whale boats on board that I remember. So the big difference here is that on Kidd, there is no watertight combing there. It's just
Really?
a straight bulkhead coming from deck up and making basically a U turned upside down. That bottom combing is not there. Those dogs are not there. And that watertight hatch is not there. I'm sorry, watertight door on the right
here.
is not there. Correct.
Are you guys seeing my cursor move?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, I see it.
So you're missing the combing down here.
I'm missing the combing there and the door and all the dogs. And for us, there is no ventilation grill right there.
Right here.
Correct. And this is the big thing. This shows the difference between the 3 ships, or between those 2 ships and Kidd in its Cold War configuration. That entire watertight combing and hatch that goes down for the ladder slides toward the viewer, toward the camera, and lines up right where that door combing would be, right there.
Oh yes.
Hmm.
I remember.
So
you said
that whole
So
ladder slides backwards.
it moves right a butt of the
Correctly.
door
Correct.
itself. So you walk in, you're going right down. The first step is not where you see the non-skid right here.
Correct.
It's right onto the first step of the ladder.
Correct. And
Interesting.
as such, if there's blowing wind from the south when Kidd is moored in Baton Rouge, we have to go and shut that hatch. Otherwise, we get water coming down the ladder and into the interior.
Sure, makes sense. All right,
Now,
let's,
right behind that
yes.
would be the dumbwaiter.
Yes.
The whole shaft for the dumbwaiter.
Mm.
That's where they made the room for it.
And that's why they shifted this whole ladder, say
Correct.
1.5 feet aft, to then over here make the shaft. And you can kind of see that, yeah, this is again the Cass and Young. They do not have, like the Sullivans, they did not have a dumbwaiter.
Right. And that ventilation right there, your ventilation is completely different from Kids. Kids has that ventilation instead of coming across and then coming down to your grill right there
Yeah.
on the bottom left. Ours went up and through a vent on O1 level.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
It was, so instead of coming down,
It goes up.
it goes up.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, let's you also sent some historic photos. Unfortunately, these are not from any of our Fletcher classes, but I
No.
added a couple here. So do you know any provenance on this?
All it said was from a US carrier.
Oh, boy.
And the internet has everything. And all I could find on steward's mates and steward's berthing was this shot and
Wow.
2 others. So nobody really sent, photographers down into these guys' berthing to document it like they did others. So this is really the only view that I've seen of any stewards, and you can tell right there. This looks like a 3 high rack
Mhm.
system,
Mm-hmm.
and of course vertical lockers. And I got to tell you, there's one part of this project that still has a huge question mark, and it's going to sound so strange and so I don't know. So what? I don't know. But that space, and Shane, you and I talked about it when I was there, and talked about it with Buzz too. There is no space in that compartment on our ships where there's room for a bathroom. And I
Mhm.
talked to our World War II crew members and other World War II vets on Fletchers, and I asked them. I said, so back home, and this is what Jason's
Yep.
museum will be talking about on the buses, separate seating, and restaurants, separate counters, seating, all of that, separate bathrooms. Same thing on the ships. I'm like, so where did the black crew use the bathroom on a Fletcher destroyer? Now I talked to Matt McClooney on Alabama. They have their own. The battleships. I would assume that Massachusetts and North Carolina are the same as Alabama, in that they didn't serve very long after World War II. In fact, I don't think Alabama didn't serve at all after World War II. She decommed around 47, 48, something like
Yeah.
that.
And that was, I assume the Massachusetts would be the same as the South Dakota class too, roughly.
Yeah,
right?
but I don't know when they ended their service, so I don't know if they made any modernizations or anything. But Matt said, yes, there's a definite sleeping quarters for the black crew. There's a definite bathroom for the black crew, and for eating, they got in the food service line the same as everybody else, and they all got their food from the same place. But then they had a table that was separated away from the rest of the white crew. It was designated as the African American table. So I'm talking to my destroyer guys, and I'm like, where did the black crew use the bathroom? And none of them could tell me. And I said, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 heads on board, 2 enlisted heads, a chief's head, and an officer's head. And so I asked one of my officers, I said, did they have special hours that they could use the bathroom, shower, shave, whatever, in one of the 2 enlisted heads? Oh, no. I'm like, okay, then, we had a chief steward on board, Chief Hamilton, John Franklin Hamilton from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Where did Chief Hamilton bunk, and where did he go to the bathroom? Did he bunk with the other chiefs in Chief's territory? No. I'm like, okay. Did he use the head in Chief's territory? No. I'm like, okay. So he bunked with his crew. He bunked with his crew. Okay.
Even though he's a chief.
Even though he's a chief. So
do you want to, for Jason and others, do you want to, usually when someone becomes a chief petty officer, they separate from the E1s to E5s, E6s. And so CPOs have their own berthing, they have their own lounge and eating area and things like that. So to have a CPO stay with the enlisted guys, that was an eye opener to me just now.
Right.
Thank you for the
like they say,
explanation.
rank hath its privileges. You always hear. So yeah, their bunks were a little bit thicker, a little bit more room, etc. So yeah, I asked. I said, so if they didn't use the enlisted and they didn't use chiefs, did they use the officer's head? Because that would make a certain amount of sense, because they're taking care of officers' country. They're keeping the staterooms clean. They're getting the officers' laundry done. They're working just one deck above in the wardroom, serving the food. Did they get to use the officer's head if they needed to go to the bathroom? Because that's right in the area where they work. And he's like, oh no. I'm like, so where did they use the bathroom? And he's got his thinking cap on and everything. And I love this guy. He's a sweet old man, and he loved the ship and he loved his shipmates. And he said, damn, I don't know. He said, maybe they just peed over the side of the ship. He said, maybe they just, took a dump on the deck and then washed it off. And he said, I just don't know. And I said, okay, I want you to think about something. You've talked about the chief boatswain's mate on the Kidd, in charge of all the decks and everything and the boats, and how he was death on green officers. He was stringent. I said, do you believe that he would have let somebody poop on his deck? And he's like, oh, definitely not. I said, so then what's the answer? He's like, I don't have one. I just don't remember. I'm like, okay. So we went and talked to Admiral Cox with the Naval Heritage History Command. And our director, Park Stevenson, said, this is a project that we're getting ready to do, and we want to be correct about it. How do we know, what happened? Do you guys know? And Admiral Cox, from what Parks told me, went, I don't know. Let me check with my staff. I'll call you back. And a couple hours later, apparently they had a big, kumbaya. Everybody get together. We need to find this out. And nobody had an answer. And he called back. He said, you have asked a question that I don't think anybody has ever asked before. He said, we got to get to the bottom of this. We need to find this out. So they're still digging around trying to find it. I stumbled across a cartoon that one of our viewers sent to me about his grandpa's ship, I think it was, which was a gold plater. Jason and the viewers, if you're not familiar with a gold plater, they didn't make any new destroyers until 1930, 32 in the U.S. 32. Navy. They had so many Wicks and Clemson class four pipers from World War I that they didn't need to make any. And of course, the naval treaties were stopping them from doing stuff. So after the naval treaties kind of went to the side and the Cold War of warship building began, leading up to World War II, they started experimenting. They'd make 2 or 3 or 4 of a class, and they'd experiment some more and have a new class and a new class and a new class. I think there were about 10 classes leading up to the Fletchers, starting in 1930. Yeah. And these newer destroyers were so much larger and more spacious, if you can call a destroyer spacious, that the older destroyer sailors from the four pipers looked at them like, well, those are gold platers, those are primo duty. But this comic book that had been put together from his grandpa's ship talked about the crew in the aft head, enlisted head on the main deck, similar to the way the Fletchers are set up. They found porcelain toilets. And so they ripped out I'm going to call them S cans. If we have any kids watching, poop cans. Yeah. They would have a ring, and a galvanized bucket would sit in it, and then you would squat down over the bucket and use the bathroom. And that was for the whole enlisted crew during that time period between the wars. And so they found porcelain toilets somewhere. Cumshawing. Remember, Jason, Navy guys steal stuff everywhere. So they cut out all of the poop cans, S cans, and put in these porcelain toilets. Well, then they sail out of San Diego to do refresher training and gunnery practice. And the first time they fired those two 5-inch guns on either side of their aft head, just like it's on either side of our aft head, the percussion, the reverberation shattered those porcelain toilets and stuff went everywhere. So they're like, oh, I guess we got to install the S cans again. So I read that and I called Matt McClooney because on Alabama, they still have World War II crew members come, a few of them. And they had one come and look at their newly restored ammunition handling room for one of the 5-inch guns above. And Shay McLean, their curator, and Matt had been over this space a million times. And he said, hey, can you tell us what this ring over here is? There's a little flat circular piece of metal. And about so high above it, there's a metal ring coming out from it that's a little bit larger diameter than the lower. What is this for? We put projectiles in it, powder casings, nothing really fits. It wobbles. We don't know what this is for. And he's like, oh, that's where the S can goes. And they're like, what? He's like, go get a galvanized bucket, 5-gallon galvanized bucket. So they ran and grabbed one and he took it from them and he just popped it right in. Perfect fit. And they're like, so what's that for? He's like, well, you know, but our head is like 3 levels down and 400 feet, you know, in that direction toward the front of the ship. And the other one is back in the back of the ship. He said, we can't at battle stations go running all the way down and be that far away from battle stations to take a poop. So you have the can here and you poop in the can. And after the battle's over and we're released from general quarters, we take the bucket and dump it over the side. So I have no evidence of what was in the steward's berthing, but I'm beginning to wonder if it might have been that sort of setup, just a bucket, and you use the bathroom and then take it above and toss it and wash it out, clean it, and put it back in place.
Yeah,
I don't have any evidence of that, but I'm wondering if that's what it was.
Well, that's where these, the blueprints of the booklets of general plans and stuff come into such play.
Yeah.
You'd think that it would be listed somewhere. Now, there's a bunch of circles on our 1945 in the steward's space.
Really?
But I don't know if I can zoom in enough to actually read the writing that would be accompanying it. But this is definitely for further. So in absence of other evidence, this is a possibility.
I'm not going to stick one in there, but we will talk about, is this how, it's a mystery. Maybe you can tell us. I was shocked when I was talking to Jason about doing this tonight. And he was like, my dad was a steward's mate. I was like, I want to talk to him. And he's like, well, you can't talk to him anymore. But
no, that's
if there's any steward's mates from World War II still living, we'd love to talk to you.
And that's the thing about the service that is so important to the story, Tim. And I know you'll be talking about this, is even on board a ship, the African-American crew were serving in various capacities, serving the white crew. So potentially at that time, just like it would have been done at home, even on ship. And that's why it's so important to tell is that, and also to tell about the desegregation as well in 1948, as you had mentioned. I'm going to bring some of these pictures back. So let me see if I can do this.
And it's scary to think how things walked backwards. They say, stuff can never happen again. It absolutely can happen again, because the Navy in the Civil War, a black man could hold any job on a ship that a white man could, except for captain. And gradually over the years leading up to World War I, different jobs got taken away bit by bit, until by the time you get to World War II, the start of World War II, the only job an African American could have is a steward's mate. And they opened it up later in the war to where they could be on the dock as stevedores, moving equipment and everything. But
what's
those
going
were the
on
only
in
two jobs.
What's going on in this photo here?
This looks like the wardroom. Maybe they're.
It does.
Maybe they're
silverware.
Polishing silverware.
Oh, that's it. Yes, good call, Jason. I couldn't figure out what
Good
that
eye.
was, but those are forks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, amazing. Okay, so here we go. This is back at the Cass and Young.
Yeah, and that's the divider wall with the fire control equipment
Mhm.
through that door.
So what you're seeing here, everyone, is that you're going down the ladder that we saw on the main deck. Uh, step over the combing, because again, this is the Cass and Young. Step over the combing, go down the first ladder, just off to your, at 350 degrees, right, relative, is this door. So this is the forward bulkhead that you kind of face when you come down into the first platform there. And look at this. There's our buddy Buzz.
Is Buzz on board tonight? I don't think so. I haven't seen him in the chat.
Yeah, I haven't seen him.
Yeah.
So, and this is that door shut.
Yes.
Right here, it's open. Here, it's shut.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you, as Tim was explaining, you do kind of like a quick U-turn, and then you go down the second ladder, which is directly above the first ladder, directly below the first ladder, and then you're in the steam line and the food service area.
Right.
And here's a gentleman reading dictionary, Bible, something maybe.
I don't know.
And
it's very dark in there. I wonder how much lighting they had.
Yeah, there's not much, as you can see in the background, not much. But again,
either that or they've got the red lights on because they're on shifts and somebody's sleeping while he's reading.
Yeah, it could be. But it looks like a triple bunk as well. You can see he's maybe sitting in the lower one. There's the middle one right by his shoulders, and then the one above his head, you can tell as well.
Yeah.
So here's the ladder on the Cass and Young again. So
that's a perfect setup showing how it's arranged.
Yes, and this is how we're arranged at the Sullivans and how the Cass and Young is arranged. Your ladder, if you can see right in this lower corner, there's probably Buzz's foot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Your ladder well is right, or was right about here, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And on Cass and Young, that gentleman, you see his foot and something poking out above it. Mm-hmm. That's where their barber shop is.
Oh my God.
That's the footrest of the barber chair.
Oh yeah, I see that now.
Yeah. They don't have the barber shop up on the 01 level like Kidd does.
And our barber shop is on the main deck.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 Fletcher classes, barbershop in all different spots. How about that?
Yeah. So that's the bottom of the ladder, of the second ladder in the food service line. And they had a locker set up just like we do. And you have that, but yours is arranged differently where something has been put there since then blocking the door, and your door is in a different location. But that's just a little storage compartment behind the ladder well that wraps around the ladder. For Kidd, we have the same sort of door, but it wrapped around the dumbwaiter, which would be where you see the ladder now on Cass and Young. And it wrapped around the back of the dumbwaiter and behind the back of our ladder, which would be all the way over to the right.
To the right, over this side.
Yeah, on the right of the screen, not so much the picture.
So then in this group that I've opened, this is ours. This is the Sullivans. So you've come down the ladder here on your right. Post office here, where you were just mentioning the Cass and Young is their barber shop.
Mm-hmm.
Here's our door to our radar, gunfire radar. And then this photo is taken pretty much from getting ready to head down the second ladder to the steam line.
Yeah, I backed myself all the way up in the corner of the room. So the ladder is right underneath the ladder that you see there.
Down here. And so what you are doing is you are converting, again, if you're following my cursor, you are converting this whole space. Again, now your second ladder well would be right about here, roughly.
When we started, yes.
When you started, yes. And so you've moved that, and then all of this space opens up. This door, gets removed. And then there's the secondary space in here.
Right, not just the door gets removed, but the entire wall that the door is set into. That little divider wall is not a bulkhead. It's just a flimsy
All of
divider
this,
wall.
all
Yeah.
of that gets removed.
Yep.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay, let me see if I can bring up some more photos. So why don't you guys do a little song and dance? I will be focusing on this for a minute. So tell us more as I'm trying to do this here.
Okay. Well, so I am having trouble finding my pictures. I've got too many pictures uh, to sort through. I'm afraid I'm going to fail in this regard, and I apologize. But if you want to see the progress so far, what I would recommend, you can see it in video. If you go to the kids YouTube channel, and I'm not hawking for, I'm not shucking and jiving for views.
Yeah, you're shucking and jiving.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
all
well,
right.
whatever. But if you go to our channel and look for the playlist Dry Dock 2024-25, we have not just the stuff of the kid going downstream, but you'll see project updates. And once we got into Dry Dock in August, we changed the titles from project updates to Dry Dock updates because kid was alongside the pier for a while we were waiting for our turn in Dry Dock. So those project updates, I think there's 5, and then there's 1 dry dock update, and we're probably going to drop number 2 probably this Sunday, maybe, possibly. If Molly is able, if I'm able to get my script to Molly tomorrow morning. And you'll see how they have gradually pulled the dumbwaiter apart and sealed up the deck and moved the ladders out and everything. And then in this next one, you'll be able to see the current situation with how they've been putting walls in, and they're doing the last part of the cutout up on the main deck and getting ready to move that upper ladder into place.
Mhm.
So that's the easiest thing for me to show you. It's already out there. You can just tap over into a new tab and watch those videos. The big thing is we're looking, obviously we're looking for donations to keep the project going and pay for everything. Shipyards are not cheap, which you, my friend, are going to be finding out next year. He's busy. He didn't hear that.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You're
yes,
absolutely
yeah,
right.
yeah. If you think this is a worthwhile project, definitely go to USSKid.com and donate. We
Yes.
appreciate every single penny. Every bit of it counts. And this is a very, very important project for us. I had a gentleman on YouTube who was a little upset with us that we were ripping out all that Cold War stuff. And he felt that he wasn't as concerned about the Cold War stuff as he was about divisiveness. He said, there's enough divisiveness in this country. Why are you dredging this stuff up? It existed. I'm not denying that it existed, but we got past it as a nation and we're moving forward. Why are you dragging us back to this? You're being disrespectful to the crew. And I showed him, I listened to his concerns. I sent him a link to our kamikaze video, where from about a year ago or so, where we sat down and talked, basically took everything I knew and put it on video just so it wouldn't be stuck up here and I get hit by a bus and it's gone. And one of the stories that I was telling was about Charles Green, one of the steward's mates that lived in kids' quarters there that we're reconstructing, and how he was listed as MIA. Everybody, there were 2 MIAs and the rest were KIAs that were lost in the kamikaze attack. And we don't know what happened to John Miller, but for Charles, we didn't know for the longest time, but we had 5 crew members come to us at different points in time, unbeknownst to each other. And they said, listen, you want to know what happened to Green? I'll tell you what happened to Green. But you don't tell this until we're all dead, because I don't want his family thinking that he was a coward. And they told the story, and crazy, but all 5 stories matched up perfectly just from different vantage points on the ship from what they saw. And that really impressed me. That and I talk about it in the video. It impressed me because we know how, Jason, we know how black and white relations were in the South in World War II, just like it was in the 60s and all the years before that. These guys probably wouldn't have been friends with Charles, in civilian life. But the definition of a shipmate is just described for me by the fact that these guys were concerned with Charles's honor and how Charles's family perceived him. And it wasn't a bad thing, but they thought it might be misunderstood. Essentially, Charles was down with the bumps on both sides the day of the attack. He was in his bunk. He was feverish. He was delirious. And this space, if you haven't been aboard Kidd or Sullivan's or Cass and Young, this space is immediately forward of the forward fire room, the forward boiler room. And that's where Kidd took the hit, and the boilers got ruptured. Boiler got ruptured and immediately had an explosive decompression. And the bomb comes out the other side of the ship, just makes a donut hole going through and detonates on the port side of the ship, which is where this space is located. So Charles, in his delirious state, feverish, in this space, in his bunk, hears the gunfire, and all of a sudden hears screeching metal. And this is all supposition on my part, but it's logical. He would have heard this. And the guys in the forward engine room on the other side of the fire room talk about the bulkhead bulging out toward them. Well, if that's the case, then the cofferdam and bulkhead on Charles's side might have bulged out. Don't know. But when the bomb came out and detonated, the mess deck immediately below took shrapnel through the shell plating, through the hull of the ship. It stands to reason that if shrapnel went through there, shrapnel may have gone through the area where Charles was at. Regardless, when the fire room goes down, the generators for generating the electricity in the forward part of the ship go down, and you have a brownout in the front half of the ship until they can transfer steam from the aft fire room, which is still fine in the aft engine room. So they set about doing that in the engine room, but in the meantime, it's dark up front. And these 5 guys from different vantage points outside see that hatch that we talked about initially on the main deck. They see the scuttle on it start wiggling, and there's bodies on top of it because guys took shelter in that little alcove and got hit by the shrapnel and died. Chief Hamilton was one of them. And they see that scuttle moving and the bodies atop it moving until they slide off, and that scuttle comes open. And Charles sticks his head out and sees Chief Hamilton, sees the bodies, the blood, and starts screaming. They said like the hounds of hell were after him. And he comes out of that scuttle, takes off running down the deck, and before he gets to the boat winch, he dives off the side of the ship. And that's the last they saw of him, which is why he was missing in action. There was no body to be found. And their argument was, I don't want anybody thinking he was a coward abandoning his post. He was delirious. He saw all the death and destruction. He saw that whole side was just riddled with shrapnel and torn up and everything. It was a secondary explosion right there where Ellen, are we still here?
Yes. Yeah. I just I just wanted to bring up the hatch again. I
see the picture now. Okay.
Yes.
So they were concerned. They did not want people thinking that he was a coward. And so they kept that story to themselves all those years, just so that Charles wouldn't be thought badly of through misperception. So I sent this to the guy that was thinking we were dishonoring the crew. And I'm very pleased to say that he changed his tune. He said, I agree with you. This does need to be done. And you are honoring the crew, so thank you for that. I still don't think you should put her in dazzle camouflage, but that's another argument. So,
oh yes, that was a big.
I'm very pleased that we were able to come to a consensus that it's a good thing, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to tell the experience, and we're trying to tell the stories of all 330 of our crew members. So.
Well, the interesting thing from my perspective, my museum actually has had that same response a lot of times. Why are you bringing this stuff up? And the interesting thing for my response to that, our museum was actually started because there was a lady named Odell S. Williams who taught elementary school and middle school back in the days before segregation. And she was teaching all Black kids, but she was not allowed by law to teach Black history. So what she would do was she would take these, she would get like small posters or small pictures of African Americans who had achieved greatness in American history, and she would sew them into her skirt and sneak them into the school.
Get
And when
out of
the
here.
when the other teachers weren't around, she would take them out and teach her children. And her entire reasoning for this, and this is where this kind of aligns with what you were saying, the entire reason that she did this was she felt honestly in her heart that Black people could never feel like they were a part of the American story if they'd never been taught that anyone who looked like them had ever done anything of merit. So she actually told those stories because it incorporated Black children into American history. And this story of what's going on, what happened with the Black soldiers and the Black Navy members at that time, you telling that story is giving life to that story. So the next time people of color come onto your ship, they're
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, hey, we were here too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we live. Oh, why? I didn't even know that we were here."
Mm-hmm.
It gives it life, and I
Yeah.
think that's very, very important in telling the American story because you have to tell the entire thing.
You do. You do.
Absolutely agree. And even though we are not in with the Sullivans converting that space, if I give tours and there's African Americans in the tour, I will still go to that space and tell the story of what the kid is doing. And now I will incorporate your museum, Jason, that you're the curator of, to say that they're telling a joint story. They're converting their ship. With the steward mate segregated space, you are supplementing it at your museum. And so even though we are not going to do it, we're still going to tell that story at the naval park, even though it won't
Excellent.
be physically the way it is, because that's, yeah, I got chills. Sewing, look how important that is for that teacher,
Yeah.
that you're spending the time to sew stories of African Americans in your skirt.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was
And
that
I've
was
heard her
actually
name for years, but I didn't know that story. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
that was the original name of the museum. Right before my mother passed, she changed the names of the Baton Rouge African American Museum, but before that, it was the Odell S. Williams Museum
Wow,
of African American History.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Awesome.
So I'm going to go back. I've got a few more images here. Let's. Oh boy. Well, where's Ken when you need him?
Is he in
Oh
the
boy.
comment section laughing
Yeah,
at us?
yeah. All right. You guys are seeing this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So let's do a comparison. This is our space. This is the same angle, roughly, from the Cass and Young, and this is the Sullivans. So as you were just mentioning, their barbershop is there. There it is right there for all to see. You can see in the mirror
Wait,
Buzz.
Actually,
we're
Shane.
we're stuck.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're stuck on the main deck.
Oh, I'll get rid of it. Sorry. How the hell did I get it? Oh, man. Close window. There we go.
There we
All
go.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
Us.
Now let's see. I will share screen. Got it now?
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Thanks for
It's okay.
sticking in with us. So this is the barber shop that you were mentioning, and this is the same angle on the Sullivans, right? So this is looking against port. This is where their barbershop is.
Yep.
This was where our post office was. So it's kind of roughly the same angle, and you can even see Buzz in the ladder, maybe cracking a joke because this gentleman's laughing here. And in our photo, there's the ladder right to the right. So it's the same. The angle is the same of each of those photos.
And I got really excited when I saw that sink there because there's evidence of water and a drain, and I'm like, oh, is this where the toilet was? But no evidence of that on Kidd anywhere. So that's plumbing that took place after the fact, apparently.
Yeah. Okay, but that gives you a nice view of the hull and
Yeah.
the framing, which you can't really see very well with our great system here for the post office. What else do I have? Okay, this is the ladder leading down to the steam line and the food service area. And again, you can see right here in the upper corner, there's the one ladder. You turn right around, do U-turn, and then you go down again.
Hmm.
Here's Buzz at the bottom of that ladder.
Hmm.
Now it's so very interesting. Our Gedunk is stationed right for ours is stationed right behind where Buzz is standing.
Shane, you're gonna have to translate Gedunk for those that don't know it.
Sorry. Gedunk is like a snack bar or a snack shop. They sold, a sundry like, razors and things like that you'd need. But they also sold candy and cigarettes and things like that. So it was like the ship's store, right?
So
But
that's
ours
what that space is on Sullivan's. It's not a storage area; it's your Gedunk.
right here, yes, right behind where Buzz
Okay.
is standing on the Cass and Young.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to go visit that. I got to go visit. And then you
Now
have
their Gedunk is on the other side of the scullery, on the starboard side. You'll see. I think you'll see pictures of that.
yes, I did this. I added these two photos because why don't you talk about these?
So this is on the starboard side passageway, opposite of where Buzz was just standing.
Right here.
Yeah. So on the starboard side, the mirror image on the other side of the scullery, they have, and do you have a picture of their Gedunk? I think I
I
included it.
do. I
Yeah.
do.
So
Let me
this
see.
is inside their Gedunk, and I found bunk hooks back behind their Gedunk, and he was very nice and let me move all the cigarette cartons and candy cartons and everything out of the way so that I could take those pictures.
Let me see if I can find that.
So that's why I was wanting to go to your ships, not just to see the ladder arrangement, because you could take a picture and show me that. But I was looking for archaeological evidence of, okay, where would the bunks possibly have been? What was the arrangement? And so that's the only bunk hooks that I found on both ships.
So are you seeing this one with the bit of
Mm,
honey? No?
bit of honey,
Mm.
no.
We see
Okay, all right.
junior mints.
Yes.
Junior mints.
Yes. Okay, so let me close this. Oh boy. Okay. So let me go back to sharing the screen. Hey, and we still have a bunch of people. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here,
y'all for
everyone.
sticking
And
with
thank you
us.
for your patience. This is such an important story. And yes,
You picked the live stream with, I think, correct me, Shane, with the two most non-technological savvy guys out of the historic fleet, maybe.
well, if you want to speak for Jason and yourself, that's fine. But
Okay, yeah,
don't
okay.
include me in that. Okay, so you guys seeing this?
Seeing that,
Yes.
and that
Okay.
is on the starboard side of Cass and Young. You come looking from the mess deck aft,
Mhm.
and that closed hatch with the Y designation at the top is the entrance to the diesel generator room.
Mhm.
To the right of the ladder is the exit from the scullery,
Right. You can
and that
almost
ladder,
see
there's Buzz right
Steve's
there.
shoulder. Yeah, you can see his arm right there. And so that's the pass through from that other photo where he was standing. You just walk across that passageway, and now you're on the starboard side.
Right. So right behind the bulletin board on this new wall, there's your bulletin board. Right
Mhm.
behind that is the door that leads into their Gedunk.
Yes. So you walk right through here.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's a divided door with the little, shelf on it. So, that's
Mhm.
where they open it up and you hand them the money and they hand you the stuff.
Mhm.
So those bunk hooks are back inside
Like
on
back.
back on the bulkhead ship's hull side of that Gedunk.
And now, Tim, why is this important on the starboard side? Because you also examined our area as well. Now
Yes,
we have sonar equipment here on the Sullivans. We
correct.
have the diesel generator, and then we have banks of sonar equipment along here.
Correct.
But you're stating something about the eating area. Is that correct? In addition
Yes,
to the bunks?
we also had the sonar amps for the Cold War sonar, which is much different from the World War II sonar. The sonar domes are in a different location,
Mhm.
and apparently the sonar amps were in a different location, down in the underwater sound room beneath enlisted berthing forward of the mess deck. We still have some stuff down there. We didn't get down there, Shane, when I was with you on Sullivan's, but I'd be curious to know if you still have the sonar amps down there, that they just left in place apparently on Kidd.
We did do
Um,
I did go down there and do a video, but I'll have to
did
double
you?
check it. Yeah.
Okay. So we got rid of our Cold War amps,
And that would be
and
right here.
that would have been right there against the hull,
Mhm.
just forward of the hatch for the for the for the diesel generator. And the blueprints, World War II blueprints, shows a 14-man table,
Oh, like
mess
right over.
table, right there, and either two bunks, which makes sense with the bunk cooks that we found on Cass and Young, or the note says two hammocks. So you could have
Mm.
hammocks there as well. So it's probably a very similar setup to what you see in the mess deck, where the bunks were folded up when not in use or during mealtime, folded up against the bulkhead, and then they had seating on top of footlockers there for those crewmen that bunked there. But it's a 14-man table versus 10-man tables in the main mess. So again, circumstantial evidence. I have no proof of it whatsoever, but based on what Alabama and Matt were telling me about how the guys came through the chow line together, but when you got out into the mess, they separate, and the African American crew goes to a special table. This one table is off by itself on the blueprints,
Mhm.
and I don't have any proof that that's where the black crewman sat. But if we have 12 bunks on our blueprints up in the steward's berthing, and that's a 14-man table, and everything else is 10-man tables, it kind of makes you wonder, is that where they ended up sitting? Because they're not with the rest of the crew. They're off
Mhm.
in a little room right outside of the main mess. So
Right. They would be in this space. The table would be underneath these hooks, the bunk
correct.
hooks, and the main mess space is just forward of that. So when we were looking at the photo of the Cass and Young's Gee Dunk, you are
Mhm.
potentially standing in that doorway or
Yes.
the pass through, looking aft. And to the left, where the Gee Dunk would be this long table, again, segregated from the rest of the mess deck. It's a
Right.
very interesting theory.
It's a theory. I can't prove it, but again, just like the toilets. It's a mystery. Is this
Mhm.
where they ate?
Hmm. So, are you also bringing that space back? Is that why you got rid of the the sonar equipment?
Yes, we're going to put that table back and put two racks there, and maybe have the racks triced up, folded up, and have two hammocks strung
Yeah,
up as well.
great.
We'll deal with that once we get back to Baton Rouge, and that's something I want to caution everybody about. This space won't be finished when we get back to Baton Rouge. The shipyard's not handling that. We handle that. They're doing the physical reconstruction, realignment of the space, pulling all the Cold War stuff out that we can't do in Baton Rouge because we don't have the equipment to lift it out and get it all the way, off the ship. It would be horrendous to try to move that stuff. It's heavy. And then, doing a big job like that basically would really kill getting tourists down into the forward spaces of the ship while we're taking out that main thoroughfare right there. Because traffic on a ship, you know, ladder down, ladder up, ladder forward, or passageway forward, passageway out. So it's like road construction, and nobody likes road construction. So why would you want to go to a museum where the ship has got road construction on it?
Well, that's funny. They always say about Buffalo is we have two seasons. We have winter and construction season. So we know they all try to cram it in the 6 months, when there's no snow on the ground, I guess.
Jason
Okay.
knows exactly what I'm talking about. I-10 is all torn up right now in Baton Rouge.
Oh yeah.
Right the main thoroughfare through the major part of the
Very
city.
nice. Yeah,
Exactly.
It does happen. It does. Infrastructure at work, though. That's what I always say, boys. That's good. Infrastructure at work. Let's. Okay. So Jason, you were saying you might be releasing this right around the time the kid's coming back. I think you were saying like December or January. So by the time the
actually you'll beat us because we won't be back until May. Even if we're out of the shipyard in January or December, we won't have the water to get back.
So I was basing that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was basing that on what you were answering earlier, that question from Robert. So the dry dock itself will be until December or January.
Right.
But then to get, we've talked plenty of times on this show and, on our YouTube channels about your water levels. And so you have to wait for all the snow melt and things, right, to have the Mississippi raise.
And then we got to put the gangway back on, and then we got to put all the stuff back together that we pulled off of the ship. The ship is bare bones right now because the Bonhomme Richard caught fire in dry dock. Cod caught fire in dry dock a little bit. Fortunately, no damage. But we pulled out all the artifacts, all the bedding, stuff like that. Anything that might be destroyed by a fire in dry dock, we pulled it out and it's in storage. So we've got even when we bring the ship back and we put the gangway back on board and we open up, we're still going to be reassembling. It's going to be a puzzle piece coming back together. So it's essentially pushing for us. And Jason, you might have kind of the same experience moving locations like y'all have last year. It's essentially pushing reset for the museum, for at least for the ship part of the museum, of okay, Tim Rizzuto, Jesse Eves, Bob Holt, myself, we've spent 40 years getting the ship to this point. We're going to dry dock. Okay, pull it all off. Okay, now we got to start over. We got to put it all back again. So so folks, don't be upset with us if you come see the kid in the summer of 2025 and she doesn't look like a jewel. She still looks like a construction zone. But we'll get her back.
That's important to say that. And same with the Sullivans. When we end up going to dry dock, when we come back, we still have all that work to do down below underneath the main deck, and that's going to take. I can foresee a couple of years. If there's 50 or 60 spaces that we need to get back to preservation. We haven't decided yet if we're going to open those spaces, and that's something that I'm always tooling around in my head. We were open; those areas were open for a tour route. Will they be open again when the ship comes back and we get those spaces taken care of? Is a question that I've been mulling around quite a bit. We'll have a couple of years to figure that out, I guess. Though.
There you go.
So we're looking at the Baton Rouge African American Museum and Jason maybe opening up that exhibit in December or so. The ship coming back in May, but not ship shape fully yet. Though the important things, those holes and water incursions down by the keel where you're bouncing on the blocks will be taken care of. Painting.
She's going to be blasted and painted exterior. From truck all the way down to keel, from stem to stern. We will have a dazzle camouflage.
I tell you, let me just tell you, when Parks mentioned that at the Hinza, the executive director of USS Kidd, he gave a presentation at the Hinza Symposium, and he put the picture up there on the PowerPoint with the dazzle, and I mean, I was like, oh my God, you guys are getting rid of the graded system, going back to that dazzle. And that was a picture of yours, right? Like that's the kids.
That's the kid. She wore that in 1944
Wow.
for a while.
Fabulous.
And so, yeah, we're gonna. I have resisted for many years,
Interesting.
and it's not a hill that I'm going to die on. So we're turning it into an educational opportunity.
Very good.
That's the compromise. So our target date is August 1945. She would have had the Measure 22 graded system, but we're gonna be out of
44.
alignment as far as we're going to be 44 for the camouflage for 5 years, the lifespan of the paint. And then when it comes time to paint, we're going to push even further back to the Measure 21 from 1943. And we've been talking about how Measure 22 works, why it works for 42 years. So we're going to spend 5 years talking about how Measure 3210B works. How that dazzle really didn't hide the ship. They weren't trying to hide the ship. They were trying to confuse the gunnery. They were trying to confuse the torpedo men and the submarines. Is this ship going this way, or is this ship going that way? Is it coming toward me, or is it going away from me? That's the only thing that dazzle was good for, was confusing the gunnery.
Right. And distance, of course. The distance, they wouldn't be able to get range and distance away because of that dazzle. Yeah, camouflage is so you are throwing off the main calculations of range and speed and direction and all of that stuff.
And that's just with the paint?
That's just with the paint.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really
when she comes back, you and I are gonna talk. We're gonna have fun.
Yeah, definitely.
You will go down that rabbit hole, Jason. You will.
Oh, sure.
And then you're going to overall sea blue.
We're going to overall sea blue, and we'll talk about how that worked and how that was actually better than the dazzle. And if the Battleship Texas crew gets their wish, then I laughed so much watching their feed when they were getting painted and all the arguments breaking out amongst the viewers, just screaming about this camouflage or that camouflage and the merits and everything. And poor Hunter was having to moderate the comment section and everything. And so I would just jump in, and I got a picture of Texas in dry dock, and we photoshopped it to Montbatten pink, and I would just put the picture of Montbatten pink. And so
which was a real camouflage.
It was a real camouflage brought about by Lord Mountbatten, King Charles's uncle. And it worked really well at dusk and at dawn, but no other time stood out like a sore thumb the rest of the day and the rest of the night.
That's right.
But yeah, I was doing that. So I'm pretty sure Hunter and Travis and everybody at Texas is going to start cheering for Montbatten pink on the Kidd at some point.
Very nice.
But we'll talk about Measure 20, Measure 21, and then 5 years we go back to Measure 22, and we've covered everything, and people know better about camouflage. Right now, most people don't even realize Kidd was in camouflage. They've seen it the whole time, and they're like, "It's going to be great to see her camouflaged." It's like, she has been camouflaged, guys. Come on, you're killing me.
Yeah, one of the if people come to the Sullivans, a lot of people ask. We have, and there was a reason for this, everybody. So there seems to be a lot of comments and a lot of consternation over it. But if you look on the starboard side, we have our World War II hull identification, the hull number in World War II configuration. But if you cross over to port, it's the larger Cold War, larger with the shadows. And a lot of people have said, what are you doing? You've got the small numbers on port, starboard, you got the larger numbers on port, and the whole plan before April of 2022, I was working a lot towards honoring the camouflage schemes 80 years later. So I was planning and working with management to have overall sea blue from 2023, which would be 80, from 43 and then to 23 to 25, which would have been the end of their overall sea blue. Then I was going to do from 25 to 31, I was going to do the graded system like Kidd has had for those 42 years. And then from 2031 and on, we would have gone back to the overall haze gray and underway sort of look from the Korean War. So if you're following that, everything would have been skewed 80 years later from 43 to 45, 45 to 51, and then it converts to 23 to 25, 25 to 31, and then 31 on. For their three measures. And that's what I was planning on doing, was what you're going to talk about, is what those camouflage schemes meant. And so we got one side of we prepped one side, the starboard side, and then April of 2022 happened, and obviously that all got put on hold. But I'm envious of you guys for doing that. That's great.
You were telling me about that when I was there last September, and Parks was already talking about, we're going to do this if we get the money for dry dock. And I'm thinking Shane's going to think that we stole this from him. And yeah, no,
it's all good. I don't think that. Well, you steal everything else, Tim, so why not steal ideas?
Hey, I learned from Rizzuto, so blame Rizzuto.
There you go. Well, it's been a great conversation, Jason. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your museum, where it's located, your hours of operation, and things like that, for people that are down in Baton Rouge or in Louisiana? They can come and visit you guys.
Okay, well, we currently don't have any hours of operation because we are completing the renovation, but we're located at 805 St. Louis Street. It's a great building, about 8,000 square feet. We have a very large and new shiny display area, so I'm excited about that. But once we reopen, we are going to be having office hours from 9 to 5. That's what we're going for. Nice. And it's going to be a great space, really. I think we've put in a lot of time and effort in making sure that we have the ability to display all the artifacts my mother collected, as well as to offer some new spaces and new opportunities for visitors to come do. My personal project has been what I call the living history room, where you'll be able to come in and actually do a vocal recording of your family history or any particular local history that you may know, and have it preserved for all eternity, actually. So it's going to be a great space. And I'm looking forward to working with Tim over at the Kidd and actually bridging our two museums. I think that's going to be an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. So, Jason, let me ask: is the bus going to make the trip from the old location to the new?
Yes, it is. Yes, we have one of the original buses from the 1953 bus boycott that took place in Baton Rouge. And this is the boycott that actually Martin Luther King sent people down to learn from the organizers here in Baton Rouge, so they can do the Montgomery bus boycott. And we have one of those actual buses, and we're working on getting it, hopefully within the next week or so. It'll be moved over to our new location. Awesome. And then we're going to begin restoring it and bringing it back to life. That is I admire what you guys are doing, because I'm seeing what it's going to take for this bus, and you guys are doing an entire ship. So
I know now you're preserving your own artifact, and then you have to decide if the seat covers are getting worn or something. What do you want to do with those? Preserve the originals, or it's amazing.
It's going to be.
If you need help with the bus, I got a guy who loves working on metal, so he can help you. Yeah,
I'll take.
But you can't have him. You can't have him until we get the ship back.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Well, that's great. Yeah, we've got a guy, but not yet. Right.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Good job, Tim.
You almost have a guy.
You almost have a guy.
I almost have a guy.
Fabulous. So, Tim, just thank you. Thank you. Tim, do you want to kind of just give us a quick update here?
Sure, but before we do, Jason, for your museum, any place you got a website? And
yes.
Oh yes, please.
Can you take donations over the website?
Yes, we can. The website is braamuseum.org, And if you go down to the bottom of the page, you'll find a donate button there, and you can send us money because we would definitely need it for that bus. I didn't realize how expensive reconstructions are, but I'm finding out now. I'm
So it's
definitely finding out.
BRAA.org.
BRAAmuseum.org.
Oh, gotcha. All right, because I'm putting it in the comments section for people. I just want to make sure I'm getting it right. BRAAmuseum.org.
And you can always also follow us on Facebook as well.
Awesome.
Thank you. I put that up there. And thanks for the reminder, Tim. That was great. Thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Yeah.
We are trucking forward with the dry docking. Like I said, we should have, if I get my act together and don't slough off tomorrow, I should have my audio recorded. So we'll have a new dry dock update dropping maybe on Sunday. The hull surveys have been completed. So there'll be some back and forth a little bit, trying to figure out direction. Do we do this? Do we do that? How do we address these issues? All of which you're very familiar with, having the Sullivans in 2022, and you're going to be having those discussions when you get to the yard as well. When you blast the hull of a ship that's 82 years old or 81 years old, and you've got at least 8 holes. When they start blasting, you're gonna have 12 holes or 15 holes or however many holes. So you always know going into the dry dock it's going to be worse than what you already know you have. So we're gonna, the state got us here, and we need to get here, and so we will find a way to do it.
And
if you want to throw money at us at USSKid.com, throw money at us, and we will take every dead president that you send our way. And Battleship Texas has our 40mm guns, and they are refurbing them for us, because instead of us starting from scratch and bootstrapping up with setting up a workshop, they already have it. They've already made their mistakes. They've learned how to do it and do it well. So it makes sense to collaborate with them. So 2 museums working together, just like we're going to be working together with Jason and his museum. And then Duloc Shipyard, which is immediately south of Thomasy Shipyard, has taken our whaleboats, and they will be starting probably in the next couple of months to refurb the whaleboats and get them whipped into shape. And so once we get the ship back, like I said, gangway comes up, and then all the stuff starts coming on, and Texas will be sending the 40s back, and we'll be moving the 20s back. If you watched our warehouse update this past week, then you see Nathan Bergeron working on our 20mm and on our searchlights and getting all that. Not getting the 20mm operational. ATF, don't come after me. I got a friend who runs ATF in Baton Rouge. Don't come after me. I'm already on a watch list, so I know she'll come after me. But getting the searchlights operational again will be pretty cool.
Right.
But loading all that up and loading the whaleboats up, so it's going to be an interesting year.
No doubt.
Tim, I would like to just take a moment to personally thank you for taking this opportunity to tell this story. It means a lot, and I don't know if you're really aware of what it means to be included in something so large. It means a lot for the community, so I do appreciate that. I just wanted to publicly say thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, but I mean, all credit, as far as I'm concerned, goes to Tim Rizzuto for having that dream, and then letting me know about it. I call myself the keeper of lost hopes and dreams at the Kidd, because employees come through, have great ideas, but it's not the right time. There's not money. The logistics isn't working, and then they don't get to see it because they're moving on with their career. And I I don't know why I haven't moved beyond the Kidd, but they haven't figured out that I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't know, but
It's
I'm
been
still
so many
here,
years.
and
Right.
I have the idea, and somebody says something, or it seems like the right time, and I'm like, hey, so and so had this idea. What do you think about this? And the timing is right, or the right person, or the money's there, and they're like, that's a great idea. Let's do it. And so I get the pleasure of taking pictures of it and everything, or calling these folks up that were with us and saying, "Hey, your idea, it's working. It's being done," and they get excited and everything.
Yeah.
So
But
so
it is a great partnership
yeah.
between both of your museums, and I'm gonna have to come to Baton Rouge for the Kidd and the bus. I've got to see that
Oh,
bus.
please do.
How
Please
historic
do.
would that be? We have a couple questions about when are we going to dry dock for the Sullivans and where. We are beginning those conversations for everyone. We're beginning those conversations with the city. All right, the city of Buffalo are the main owners of the vessels, including the Sullivans. And so we are giving recommendations to the city. The city will then be working with our recommendations. So nothing has been released yet. We are trying to go to dry dock in late 25 or early 26. So that's kind of our timeline. Again, all of the funding has been secured through donations, state support, county support, city support. But we will be, it's almost, we will be consulting with the city uh, with our expertise and our knowledge of the staff on board with the city. And then the city will be making the final decisions with the dry docking and uh, and the tugs and things like that. So, as far as that's my understanding of it. So, nothing has been fully decided yet. Um, Thank you so much, everyone. Uh, Shane from the Buffalo Naval Park. We've got Jason from the I'm so Baton BRAA Museum. All right, I'm so used to not saying I'm Baton Rouge shortened. I'm like BR. Okay,
Right.
and then Tim from the USS Kidd. Uh, this is a great story. Thank you for being here, and of course, leave comments on the Kids site. Leave comments on the Buffalo Naval Park site, and we'll be sure to answer those. And we hope to do a follow up. When the
Yeah.
Kidd comes back, and we'd love to have a video of what you're going to be doing, Jason, in your museum to
Certainly.
to go along with what the Kidd has done on board. So look forward to follow-ups, and thank you very much, everyone, for being here.
And thank you
Thank
for your
you.
patience.
Yep.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, you're very welcome, and thanks to everyone. Appreciate all of your support. Take care.
Good night.
Good night.